You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Sitting looking back on all the times we shared, when I acted like I just didn't really care, and it wasn't fair. You stood by me, girl, when I was so untrue. But this is my promise, girl, I give to only you. Let me be the one you come running to. When you need me, I'll be there, just to let you know that I do care. Baby, I promise, girl, I promise, I'll always be true. And baby, I promise, girl, I promise you that I'll be right here for you. No matter the problem, babe, I'll stand by your side. Be right by your side. Yeah, can never be denied.
You are now tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell, the Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode number 385. In this episode, we are recapping the Washington Commanders versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as always, before we get started, there's a few things I would like to say up front. The Maryland football recap against Michigan State and preview against Virginia, that will be up tomorrow. These episodes will go live tomorrow. So be tuned in for them. As you have seen, we've made some cosmetic changes. We're not all the way finished, but we have officially finished our cosmetic changes for a Big Nate Sports Talk podcast. I would like to thank Anthony Handy, as always, for assisting with those cosmetic changes. It's making a big difference. Appreciate the support that he's helped as this podcast has grown. Much appreciated to you, sir. And also to the wonderful producers as well. You guys are as well a great team and appreciate what you guys are doing. Let's just get right into it. Week 1, new era in Washington. And it doesn't have Ron Rivera. It doesn't have Dan Snyder. I have a lot of optimism. I'm still not. What's the word? I'm trying to find the right words. I'm not all the way sold on this team right now. We lost 37-20 on the road, painfully, and I got to start on, like I did with the Ravens. I'm gonna start on what the Tampa Bay side. Offensively, they got off to a hot start. Baker Mayfield threw for 4 touchdowns. Baker Mayfield, I'm not a Baker Mayfield apologist. I was very highly critical of him. I thought he's always been a good quarterback. I thought he was scapegoated, coming especially all that injury he suffered in Cleveland. I don't know why they let him play through it. And then I thought him going to Carolina, I don't think was really good for him. And then Los Angeles, I think, kind of revived him. They got an opportunity. I think he's making most of it. And I think his story to get from where he was from a couple years ago to now, it's been impressive. And Baker Mayfield has slowly he's garnered my respect. It's much appreciative of him and what he's doing. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have been just the gems for this team, and they've seen a lot. They've dealt with Jameis Winston to Mike Glennon to Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield. They have been just a consistent duo, and it's to me why I think they're the most. I don't think they're truly appreciated in today's game. If I was running an NFL team, those are the first two guys I want on my team. I thought Mike Evans did a good job in decoying and kind of getting our defense uncomfortable. Baker Mayfield finished 24-30, 289 yards, no interceptions. Chris Godwin, he's kind of, we already know who he is. He's like, especially on third down, he's eight catches for 83 yards. Their offense was pretty much was kind of kicking on all cylinders. Defensively, I thought they could have. I thought they made it a little tough for us. I think looking at their defense, like starts with Levante Davis. He, to me, was making the plays we needed to. And especially the young guys around him, especially their pass rush, Yaya, Derek Deebe, and then Joe Tyron, they were effective in the pass rush. They kind of made it tough for us defensively. But their offense was pretty much the focal point of that game. The rookies for them, I thought really, really stepped up. Bucky Irving, who I think is going to be a great running back. I think he's a good fit for them behind Ricard Wright. Graham Barton, he handled his own. Did a really good job, really in the pass protection and the run, because he pretty much took out Bobby Wagner and Frankie Lavu. Jalen McMillan, he missed a walk-in touchdown early, but he made it for it in the fourth quarter. Bucky Irvin, he actually led the Bucs in running with 62 yards, including what was a 32-yard run, and then the rookies really, really, really stepped up well. Their offensive coordinator, his name is Liam Cohen, actually was pretty impressive for his play calling, and especially with Mike Evans, because he definitely had Brandon St. Juste in one-on-one coverages, and that's something to definitely watch. Now, I did point this out. One thing I wanted to say was the same thing. I think this is going to be my argument with who gets the healthiest the most, because I predict Tampa Bay to win their division. That's just my prediction. Is staying healthy, because Kaja Kelsey was already out, Logan Hall was out, and they lost several defensive players. Zion McCollum, he got hit hard when making a tackle. Was evaluated for concussion. So now I believe he's still in concussion protocol, if I said that correctly. Bryce Hall had an air cast on his leg, and he suffered a fractured fibula and a dislocated ankle. So he's done it for the year. Thoughts and prayers. Get well soon, buddy. Then Levante David got hurt, but he came back into the game. And they took some licks with their corners. I think it was Josh Hayes. He got hurt. And then Antoine Winfield Jr. was in a walking boot. So they kind of got deflated with some injuries on Tampa's side. But give them credit. When it mattered, they had guys that stepped up. But I think they did everything on both sides of the ball, and give Tampa Bay credit. For Washington, let's just get right into it. Jaden Daniels, I thought made plays when he needed to. It was I expected that. He got going early on the ground. He had the 9-yard gain on their second drive. And I don't want us to get into the habit of he has to use his legs to move down the field. There was the third and fourth on the 17-yard drive, and then I think it was another 28, which was that 74-yard scoring drive on the ground. He scored 2 of our 3 touchdowns. He actually led our running game with 88 yards, which was 5.5 yards per carry. I'll give him some credit on that. But the biggest thing is making the big plays. And when I say big plays, it's, well, let me back up. Execution. The biggest thing that was the issue last year, and I'm hoping that this is not a trend going into this year, is converting on third down. Watching how Tampa converted on third downs was with practically ease. Washington, I would like to have seen that. Let me give you an example. When I say defensively, you gotta hold and not allow third down conversions. For example, it's a 3rd and 7. Baker Mayfield found Jalen McMillan for the 32-yard touchdown. And that same drive, if I remember correctly, it was the Chris Godwin catch. And then in that was a 3rd and 6 for 11-yard run. Tampa Bay converted 69% of their third down Sunday. That can't happen. Which leads to another issue. Giving up big plays. They gave up 392 yards of offense. They had 9 plays that went for at least 15 yards. And some of those came at probably, I thought, would cost us the game. I think it's week 1. I'm not overreacting, but this is where the coaches have to go back and look at the film and make the adjustments. Because that is an issue I do not want to see trending in 2024. I'm not going to question the effort. I thought we had some moments. The biggest thing is we just did not make stops. You've got to get stops. I mean, Tampa Bay was putting together good drives, and we just did not have an answer. I mean, whether they scored 3 or 7 points in the first 5 drives, and then being forced to punt, and that was all in the third quarter. I mean, from the beginning, I mean, Cade York, he missed 2 field goals, and then what was it? We had Tampa Bay had 2 punts in the second half. Like I think there are some things you can take away, but come on. I think that was definitely a reality check. I believe that we're going to improve. I'm not concerned how we looked. I didn't even really our running game. I thought we did really well. Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson, I think they're going to be a nice number 1 and number 2 punch. Brian Robinson was 49 yards on 3 catches. Austin Eckler, he had a good game. Luke McCaffrey, we kind of used him a little bit in there, but we definitely going to need a little bit more production from our wide receivers. There's some things you can definitely build off on, but outside of that, I mean, that kind of leads me to my next point: positives. Jaden Daniels, I mean, this is why he was picked where he was. He made quick decisions, didn't turn the ball over. There is a lot of promise for him. But I know this may sound controversial, and we can agree to disagree, and this is just how I feel. Last year, Sam Howell was essentially a rookie. by default, Jaden Daniels has to get the same critique that Sam Howell got last year. I understand he's a rookie. Rookies make mistakes. But we did not give Sam Howell did not get the same grace that Jaden Daniels got. If I'm being honest, Sam Howell was essentially scapegoated for problems that already had existed. Now, I know I'm beating a dead horse when I say that, but by default, I kind of have to judge Jaden Daniels the same way Sam Howell was judged. That's just being honest. Talked about Brian Robinson. We those are pretty much my positives. There was a couple players on defense. We did have a couple the Cleveland Farrell. He had a couple sacks. Pressured the quarterback a couple times, but I mean, majority of it is negatives. I mean, when I look at Cade York, and unfortunately, he was cut after that game. So sometimes it makes you wonder, maybe we should have kept Joey Sly. But okay. I'm all about giving kickers an opportunity, a chance to reflect and get better. But it looks like in this league, everyone's expecting a Jake Moody, Justin Tucker, Evan McPherson. They're looking for those type of kickers, and everybody's just different. Our defensive backs did not look the best. And I think, again, it's week one. I think give them time to adjust. Let's see how they look. Brandon St. Juste gave up 2 touchdowns to Mike Evans. The criticism on Emmanuel Forbes is like, I just don't think that type of defense fits him. I just don't. And but I see the issues, missed tackles, blown coverages, and there's also penalties. But I think also too, again, that's part of the growth. And I think there has to be some type of patience. And I think, again, we just so quick to just throw the towel in on saying, well, this is the second year. I mean, Mississippi State, I mean, he was a good corner. And I mean, you can say what you want and say he's a fraud, but I'm going to give him time. I think he'll adjust. But their secondary just looked bad. I mean, as a whole. And I mean, just miscommunication, all that just was bad. Who else? For the most part of the offensive line, Andrew Wiley, we need to have a conversation. I mean, Jaden Daniels had to. There was a one play where he got beat. He allowed pressure. I mean, he just, first and foremost, I mean, Andrew just doesn't have foot quickness. He just doesn't, and he doesn't have the balance. He needs help. Practically, if you watch every play, I mean, he just gets beat around the edge with speed. If anything, I think he's really a guard, if I'm being honest. And I think he's just not good at tackle, personally. But outside of that, I have to give the coaches a pass, because again, this is a new coaching regime, and with a lot of new pieces, everybody had their flaws, and there's still a lot to work on. But this was expected. I give them right now an incomplete, if I'm being honest. So they'll be fine. We got the New York G-Men, who we won't play them in. We won't play another division game until week 9. So again, I think they'll bounce back. I'm not concerned. biggest thing is, they're going to improve. Coach Dan Quinn said it. Is they all competed. But I think also too with Jaden, there was something he said that I was very he said that was kind of something that was interesting. He didn't have a lot of design quarterback runs. But again, when you're getting pressure off the offensive line, you got to make plays with your feet. Then also too, again, you're going against a Todd Bowles blitz happy defense. So yeah. Those are pretty much my takeaways from the game. Get ready for the G-Men, and then the New York Giants are a good team. I feel bad for, and I mean, in a way I do, but at the same time I don't. I feel bad for Brian Dabble. I don't think this is what he expected. This is also my biggest criticism. Everyone's saying Daniel Jones is not good. I don't agree. I do not agree that they should have paid Saquon Barkley first. That should have happened, but I'm actually glad he's in Philadelphia. I think a guy of his talent, I think carrying that team for what he did and what he get and what did he gain from it? Nothing. Daniel Jones, unfortunately, will be the scapegoat. Going back to when he got drafted, and there was a commentator, he's no longer on TV, and I quote, when he got drafted, he said he'd better be a Hall of Famer. And the Giants just have not done enough for him. They lack playmakers. The offensive line is terrible outside of Andrew Thomas. But the biggest question that bothers me is that one of the things is we got to hold front office accountable. Who put this team together? This team, it's not winning football. But unfortunately, we're going to look at Daniel Jones as the problem. And I mean, not last year, but a year not too long ago, they were in the playoffs. So, see how they look against the Giants. And Daniel Jones, I think, is a 3-1 against Washington, if I'm saying that correctly. So, that should be interesting to watch. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to get into one final thought.
All in your space is where I wanna be.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize them.
So my one final thought is I'm actually surprised this really wasn't talked about. One of our VPs, his name is Real Intine. He is vice president of content for the last 4 years, and was fired recently after he was caught on video making some very, very disgusting comments, being anti-LGBTQ, accusing Jerry Jones of being a racist. He referenced Roger Goodell as a $50 million puppet. He also criticized our fans, calling them "quote unquote" mouth breathers. And he was suspended on a Wednesday, if I remember correctly, because of the person from this media group is a journalist, and he had met the journalist actually on a dating app. I actually want to say it was Hinge, and she actually was an undercover journalist, and they met a couple times during the summer in DC, and it just was some of the comments, and I'm gonna read them here, were just disgusting. Over 50% of our roster is white religious, and I'm not going to read the rest of it. I think that was disgusting. Their interpretation, I don't buy any of that. Another big chunk is low-income African Americans that come from a community that is inherently homophobic. Then he also goes to say is I think the commissioner of the NFL hates gay people, hates black people. Jerry Jones, who really runs the NFL, I think he hates gay people, hates black people. These are things that were said by Mr. N-Team. And then he also goes a little, I think, goes completely off his rocker when he goes about the NFL's social justice initiatives called, he says, quote unquote, performative. He says, and I quote, "It's not done out of the goodness of their heart. It's done because George Floyd changed the game. It is to make as much money as possible. The NFL cares about that, the bottom line, any corporation above anything else." Then he goes to call our fans. He said they're mostly high school educated alcoholics and mouth breathers, as I said earlier. He also said some of our players were dumb as hell, and also said that there were who's get their heads knocked around a few times. And again, he also went on to say some very other inappropriate things. And that is, I'm not shocked by those things that he said. Again, this was he was under Dan Snyder, and we already know how that was ran with him as our owner. I'm glad he's fired. He should have been fired the next day. I would have called him in and said, "No, you need to be here by 9:00, and please leave your badge and human resources, and you'll be escorted off the premises." There's no place for people like that working in the office. I don't care if you're working at a McDonald's. I don't care if you're working at working for the commander. It does not matter. There's no place for stuff like this. We have to hold people accountable. I understand that there's going to be bad apples no matter where you go in life, but this is not a reflection. The things that this man said is not a reflection of what I would have thought this new look of the Commanders would look like. And it just proves that we still have some work to do. And I like the fact that he was fired the next day because it was a Wednesday he was suspended, and Thursday he was fired. My apologies. I want to clarify that. It's nice. It's good to know that we have a ownership that is willing to take accountability and saying, "No, we're not standing for this. There's no place for this. You've got to go." Now, I don't expect him to get a job much sooner. Now, he does have a Twitter, and he actually put on a private, and he actually was with the Jets 2 years before he came to us. So I was very, very shocked. So excuse me. I was surprised that nobody really talked about this, and I thought it was also appropriate. I just thought it was appropriate to bring it up. I know it's about a week since it happened, but I thought it was still fresh to talk about because I'm also with the Tyreek Hill situation. My quick thoughts on that is I thought Tyreek Hill should handle that differently. First and foremost, what those officers did was inexcusable. They need to be held accountable for that. The officer that was the most aggressive one, he should be fired. But also, too, it's a two-way street. Tyreek Hill, officer, my apologies. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm heading to the game. Didn't know I was speeding. Please forgive me. Give me the ticket and keep it pushing. When you're, don't knock on my window, bruh, all those other things, that's escalating it. And, when you hear him Sunday talking about, I'm still trying to process it. when I look at the footage, I'm like, well, okay, you weren't all the way innocent neither. But those officers were wrong for snatching him out the car. That officer had his knee on his back and then kind of, being aggressive with him. And shout to John Smith and Calais Campbell, who they didn't do anything wrong. They stood there the whole time Calais Campbell was detained. And it's just accountability. And that officer is on administrative leave. Personally, he should be fired. That's just my opinion. But I appreciated Tyreek taking accountability, but I sometimes we kind of have to look at it from both perspectives. I'm trying to get home, and so is that officer, no matter what the situation is. And sometimes it's just a simple, hey, you know what? And I'm giving a shout out to Rashard Miller. He mentioned this once. Sometimes you just got to cut your losses and keep it pushing. Hey, you know what? I was speeding. I wasn't thinking. I got to be better as a driver on the road. Keep it pushing. He got a violation. He didn't wear a seatbelt. Got to think about things like that. So I thought it was those are two final thoughts that were on my mind that I wanted to talk about. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace. Stay up.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you.